This video is brought to you by Brilliant. A group of lawyers filed a lawsuit on behalf of the citizens of a planet in the Gliese 581 system, and they re-suing the United States government for detaining their people at Area 51 for over 70 years. The only problem is that this isn't real. This isn't a news story either. This was originally posted back in 2019, but what if this wasn't science fiction? What if someone really did file a lawsuit like this? What would the US government do? What could they even say in defense of this? How would a court even rule on something like this? There are a lot of interesting questions that come up with a scenario like this. I tried to find out who these lawyers were representing, because if this was real, then this would be the biggest legal case of all time. But all I could find were some articles saying they were from a law firm called Peddle, Murgatroyd, and Throckmorton, which does not exist anywhere on Google. And there's nothing online that suggests that this ever actually happened. But just for fun, let's pretend that it did. Let us pretend that a group of lawyers filed a lawsuit on behalf of a civilization from another planet. How would that even work? The first thing that comes to mind is that we don't even know if other civilizations have legal systems like we do here on Earth. We know that many animals communicate and coordinate activities, but none of them have anything close to a legal code or court system. So the very idea of filing a lawsuit implies that the people from this other planet would need to be advanced enough to develop their own concept of laws and justice. If they didn't do that, then how would they have a case to bring before a human court? How would they even know what their rights are? Now, in our world, we generally assume that everyone has natural rights given to them simply by virtue of being alive. We don't have to agree on what those rights are or how governments should handle them, but the general consensus seems to be that someone can't just go around killing people without justification. So in this hypothetical situation, we'll just assume that the aliens develop their own concept of natural rights, but they also have something similar to our concept of a government. Otherwise, how could they have filed a lawsuit in the first place? The first thing that the court would probably want to know is whether or not this alien civilization has a government. In our world, every country has a government of some kind, even if it's just a small council trying to maintain peace among a few villages. It doesn't matter if the government sucks. They're still the ones who get sued when someone breaks one of their laws. But even if the aliens did have a government, that wouldn't necessarily mean that they had a representative government. In democratic countries, the people vote representatives into office who make decisions on their behalf. Even though this is how most modern countries operate, it's definitely not the only way. In monarchies, the head of state is usually a king or queen who rules according to the advice of their counselors. The United States itself used to be a monarchy before they decided that it wasn't working out. Now it's run by an elected president, but there have been times in history where the president acted without consulting the people, such as when Abraham Lincoln suspended the right to free speech for people who were supporting the Confederacy during the Civil War. Governments often take actions that they shouldn't, so that's probably why this group of lawyers thought it was important to sue them. But regardless, the court needs to know what type of government this alien species has, because if they were ruled by a monarchy or a dictatorship, then they might not have the right to sue. If they are ruled by an elected government, then that government would likely need to sign off on this lawsuit before it could be filed in court. But assuming that the aliens do have a representative democracy and that this group of lawyers is legitimately representing their people, the next question becomes, how exactly do you prove that the aliens are real? If the aliens wanted to sue the government, then they would need to show evidence that they exist. This would probably be pretty easy in today's world, because even though we haven't confirmed the existence of aliens yet, we have collected a lot of evidence that points towards the likelihood of life existing somewhere else in the universe. NASA alone has discovered thousands of planets that could potentially support life, and there's no reason to think that Earth is the only planet with intelligent life. Because of this, the court would probably be open to hearing the case, but they would need more than just probability to rule in favor of the aliens. We would need direct proof that aliens exist. This might be hard to come by, but assuming that they could manage it, the next question is, where do we go from there? Let's assume that the aliens proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that they exist. Would that be enough for the court to rule in their favor? Unfortunately, probably not. One of the main reasons for this is because there aren't any international laws that apply to extraterrestrial life. We don't know what the laws would be if we came into contact with an alien species, let alone if they somehow managed to travel to Earth and ended up in American custody. The best example we have to go off of is the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. This treaty basically says that no country owns any celestial bodies and that any country that sends an object into space is responsible for any damage it causes. But this is just a treaty between countries on Earth. It doesn't include aliens. If aliens filed a lawsuit in American court, then it would essentially be up to Congress to decide how to rule. They could always try to pass a law after the fact, but that would just set a precedent for future cases instead of solving the one at hand. Regardless, if Congress was ever going to pass a law like this, they would probably want to do it behind closed doors. Why? Well, imagine how much chaos would ensue if the public knew that there was a group of aliens suing the US government for detaining their people at Area 51. There would be worldwide panic. The stock market would crash, countries would start preparing for an invasion. It would be absolute pandemonium, and this is all assuming that the aliens weren't demanding reparations for damages done to their people. If they were, then the US government would be bankrupt within seconds. Basically, if aliens ever did file a lawsuit against the US government, then we would never hear about it unless it was leaked somehow. And even then, they probably wouldn't give us any details. It's possible that this story was fake from the beginning, but it's also possible that this story will be real one day. Either way, there's no telling what would happen if aliens filed a lawsuit against the US government, but there is something that we can talk about now. And that's the sponsor of today's video, Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform with thousands of lessons on math, science, and computer science. You can learn at your own pace and on the go. So whether you're trying to understand calculus or quantum physics, Brilliant has a course for you. One of my personal favorite courses is their scientific thinking course. It's a beginner-level course that covers topics such as logic and scientific reasoning. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to think like a scientist, then this course is a great place to start. Thanks for watching. See you next time.